Next question. Which of the following are assumptions of humanistic approach? Now, humanistic approach under Maslow's leadership talked about two specific concepts. First was the possibility of the universal set of values that would provide people with moral anchor to help them decide what is correct and what is not. So this was propounded under Maslow's concept. And then you have, it believes in uniqueness of individuals. So this was under the concept of phenomenology. So under that they try to explain that individuals have subjective experiences and there is uniqueness of individual that exists and they must be trained to realize their inner potential. So B and C would be the correct option. So among these we have 2 as the correct answer. Now next question. You have deductive and inductive reasoning. Now in the previous lectures we have already talked about and I have given a mnemonic to help you learn inductive approach, that is ISG. Inductive means moving from specific to general. So for inductive I say it's specific to general, and what would be deductive? It would be reverse of it. So deductive would be general or universal to particular. So B for deductive. So you have B for deductive, and then for inductive it would be particular to general. So that's D. So D for general. So the correct answer would be 3. So this is a question which is directly asked on the concept of what is inductive and what is deductive reasoning, a very direct question. Now this question asks about the Wallace creative performance theory, and under the Wallace creative performance theory you have a series of 4 steps. The first step talks about preparation. So preparation means having a proper mindset to do something. Incubation means you are trying to contemplate the problem. Illumination means there is a sudden rise of an idea. So there is an idea that arises in the mind. And finally there is verification, that means you are trying to do an activity or demonstrate an effort. So that those are the correct order of the sequence. So you have preparation, incubation, illumination and verification as the correct order. So here you have the Wallace creativity iterative model. So here what we try to understand is A and B explain the left side of the brain and C and D talk about the right hemisphere or the right brain. Now you have incubation and illumination which are part of right brain, while preparation and verification are part of left brain. So all that leads to creativity, critical thinking would be part of right brain. So you have upper right, lower left and upper left, and this is how we understand the Wallace creativity model. The next question is a question based on assertion reason. Now it's a very tricky question because a lot of students got confused with the assertion itself. Let's leave the assertion for a while and move to the reason. So it talks about GF and GC, which are the fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence as given by Cattell. So as you can see the curve, crystallized intelligence increases with age while fluid intelligence tend to decrease with age. Now fluid intelligence is something that is biological in nature, while crystallized intelligence is something that is gained through education or individual experience or through acculturation. So as we see, crystallized intelligence increases with age while fluid intelligence decreases with age. So if I move back to the question, it says crystallized intelligence grows rapidly in childhood and adolescence, that's correct. But fluid intelligence grows rapidly during adulthood, that is incorrect. Rather, fluid intelligence declines starting adulthood. So the reason is incorrect. So the only option with reason as incorrect is 3. So even if I am sure about reason, I can say the answer would be 3. but still let's try to understand the assertion. Now the assertion is very confusing here, because students, what they were trying to do was, they were trying to correlate the two curves and say they are not positively correlated. The question here does not ask about the curves being positively correlated, rather it asks about across the age levels. That means a person of say age 20, if he has GF high, there are very high chances that the GC would also be high. On the other hand, if I say a person with 60 years of age has GF which is moderate, then the crystallized intelligence would also be nearing to moderate. So it is what we try to understand. Positive correlation is not based between the two graphs, but based on a specific age that we are trying to understand. So assertion is correct here. Next question. Which of the following in the absorptive phase of energy metabolism, what is the position of insulin and glucagon? Now there are three phases that we try to understand about energy metabolism. So the first is the cephalic phase. The second is the absorptive phase. And the third is the fasting phase. Fasting phase, as the name suggests, the person is fasting. So what is happening is whatever is stored in the body is being used during the time of fasting. That means glucagon is getting converted, or glycogen is getting converted into glucose. And this glucose is being utilized in the body. That means this stage you have high glucagon. While in the absorptive stage, it's the stage of maximum absorption. So what is high here would be insulin. And what happens with high insulin? High insulin converts glucose to glycogen. That's the first thing that it does. Then it also promotes use of glucose as such. So it is promoting use of glucose. It is converting glucose into glycogen, and lastly it is using it as a storable source of energy. Source of energy. That means the absorptive stage has high insulin but low glucagon, and glucagon would be high during the stage of fasting. So the correct answer would be A and D. So here you have A and D, that is fourth would be the correct choice. Next, Pygmalion effect. Now this is a direct question about what is Pygmalion effect. So Pygmalion effect basically suggests when you have high expectations for someone, the performance tend to increase. This effect was name which came from the Pygmalion, which was a sculptor, and he carved such a beautiful statue that later on he fell in love with that statue, and he basically tried to admire it much more than other things. So the correct answer here would be, if you are if you have your expectations high, you would have your performance which is much higher. So expectational progress made by a student as a result of teacher's expectations. So teacher has good expectation for the student, as a result the student is performing very good. So the answer is 2. Next question, which of the following is the dimension that is measured by semantic differential scale? Now semantic differential scale measures 3 factors that are known as EPA: evaluation, potency and activity. Under evaluation, what we try to say is good versus bad. Under activity, I am trying to say fast versus slow. So activity is clear, the person is trying to do an activity. Potency is again a contrast, but it talks about say powerful versus powerless, big versus small. So that's a kind of contrast again. So semantic differential scale measures three things, that is evaluation, potency and activity or action. So the correct answer here would be 4. Next question. In which category do you put conversion disorder, specifically hysteria? So conversion disorder or hysteria means any psychological symptom turns out into a physiological disorder. For example, if you have some kind of psychological problem, you might say, I am having a physiological result of it. For example, there is numbness of hand, I am having a blurred vision. So these are all physiological consequences of a psychological disorder. And this is what is known as hysteria. Therefore, under DSM-4, this Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 4, since you are having a physiological consequence, that means it is somatoform disorder. You are having some somatic formation for that, and therefore we call it somatoform disorder. However, in ISD-10, this was classified as a dissociative disorder, while the recent release of the DSM-4 talks about hysteria as a somatoform disorder. So that's based on something that has been happening recently in the field of psychology. Next question. Suppose Mary wants to know if she can learn Spanish by playing some language tapes when she sleeps. Now if I go directly onto the choices, there are two things that we must be clear of. First is subliminal perception, another is signal detection. Subliminal perception means when you have a perception that is below the threshold. That means you are having a constant pain in your tooth, and on the roadside you see an advertisement for the dentist. After 2 days or 3 days, you might click on that, okay, I saw the advertisement for dentist, so let me go to that dentist for a dental checkup. So that's a kind of subliminal perception. On the other hand, signal detection means if you are able to discern a signal which is actually there, which is really there, and which is not. So that is what is signal detection. So here, when the child is sleeping and the language tape is playing, that means child is not waking up. And since the child is not waking up, it's very unlikely, or I could say it is nowhere a chance that child will learn that, because he can learn that only if he is awake. So that's signal detection and no. So the correct answer would be 2 here. Next question. This is a question based on t-test and ANOVA. Now t-test and ANOVA are usually done for randomized testing. Usually what are the criteria that we use is two tests that we use, that is pre-test and post-test usually. Then you try to have post-test that should be there. Then under F-test, there are few requisites. First is, F-test can not be negative. It is not negative, first of all. And secondly, F-test, the numerator should be greater than denominator. Numerator means what comes up and denominator means what comes below. So numerator should be greater than denominator. For any number, if I am saying numerator is greater than denominator, that means that number tends to be greater than 1. And since that number is greater than 1, I can say in a randomized group, t square is equal to f, that is correct. And this can be correct only when f is greater than t, and f is greater than t because either f or t, if any one of them is greater than 1, that means the other has to be greater than 1. And if I say 5 square is equal to 25, then 25 would be f and 5 would be t. So I can say f is greater than 5. But if it is 0.5, the answer would be 0.25. So if the value is less than 1, if the value of t is less than 1, the value of f also would be less than 1. So this can come true only when t square is equal to f and f is greater than 1. So both assertion and reason are correct, and reason is the correct explanation for assertion. Next question. Who among the following laid down the foundation for social foundation of organizational behavior? Now the first work in the field of psychology, the first thesis came up by Wittes. Munzburg is considered as the father of organizational psychology. However, Mayo is considered as the person who laid the social foundation for organizational behavior, and he talked about what was known as the Hawthorne effect. And he believed that employees' needs and desires are much more important than the incentives we give to the employee, and therefore he talked about the social foundations or the socio-psychological foundations of the organizational behavior. So the correct answer is 4, Mayo. Next question. Which of the following is considered as a third force movement in contemporary psychology? In contemporary let's talk about, there were 3 streams of the psychology. One was run under Freud, that was psychoanalysis school. The next was the behavioral approach. And in contrast to these two, there emerged another force which was known as humanistic force. And this humanistic force is considered as a third force in psychology because it focused on inner needs, self-fulfillment, and identifying oneself. So the correct answer is humanistic or existential psychology. Next question. There are 2 types of people. First is, before solving this question, let's try to form a background. So there are 2 types of people. One is the ego-involved learners, and these are performance learners. The next are task-involved learners, okay. So there are so task-involved learners are also known as learning goals or performance goals. Now, the person who are focused on performance are actually focusing themselves on what is the result or what would be their performance in contrast to others, while task involved people would consider their own performance or own progress, and they would depend on the performance or evaluation by others because they are based on performance. So they are worried about their performance or their ultimate results, while those who are task involved learners, they just want to do good and do more good in the task they are assigned. So they are focused on their own progress and not on the progress of others. So ego involved learners are driven by performance goals, that is correct. Task involved learners are driven by learning goals. Ego involved learners are preoccupied with themselves and are concerned with the evaluation by others. That's again correct because they are judging themselves based on their performance. So reason is also correct and assertion is also correct, and this reason explains the assertion. So I should say 1 would be the correct answer here. Both reason and assertion are correct, and assertion explains the reason here. Next question. According to Piaget, which is the primary motivating force behind development? Now, there are 3 things that Piaget talked about in his theory. First is assimilation, next is accommodation, and last is equiparation. Under assimilation, he talked about getting new ideas. Under accommodation, he talked about applying those ideas to the existing framework. And under equiparation, he talked about maintaining a balance between assimilation and accommodation. Now, let me help you with an example. So, assimilation means if I see any round object at night which is white in color and glowing, I can say this is a moon. Under accommodation, what would be done is someone would help me or guide me saying that everything which shines at night is not moon. This might be a light that is coming from a home. So that is accommodation. Then I apply my ideas or my knowledge to that fact and understand that this does not happen actually. Under equiparation, what I do is I try to develop a new idea that I did under assimilation. Then I try to apply it. There are shortcomings that come up, and then I try to understand, okay, what I understood was incorrect, and in reality this is everything which is white and which glows at night is not a moon. So I develop a new understanding, or I revise my shortcomings. So that is what is equiparation. So the correct answer, the primary motivating force behind development is equiparation. So with this we covered the set of first 15 questions. We would be covering the set of next 15 questions in the next lecture tomorrow. You can subscribe to Exam Race channel for any further